We just pray on the prayer. Any other brother please do the second adab? Then he can start.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد فإن خير الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال يا أبت افعل ما تؤمر ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Safat, ayah number 102, he replied, "O my dear father, do as you are commanded, Allah willing, you will find me steadfast." Brothers and sisters, today my khutbah topic is on Eid al-Adha, but specifically on Qurbani. And now, Qurbani is not just the simple act of slaughtering an animal and distributing its meat as such, and it's not just some commemorative ritual either. See, to understand Qurbani, we need to look at the word itself, Qurbani, or the Arabic word Qurban, which the root word of Qurban is Qurb, and the meaning of the word Qurb means nearness. So what are we getting near to? The meaning of Qurbani is the drawing the nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is an act of taqwa, it's an act of worship, it's an act of ibadah. So the Qurbani is putting us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as long as we have the taqwa for it. Now, let's go to the very first story of the very first sacrifice. The first sacrifice that we know of is the story of Adam alayhi salam with his two sons, Habil and Qabil. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran that the Habil and Qabil, they had differences. They had a lot of problems with each other. Qabil specifically always being jealous of his brother Habil. And so Adam alayhi salam thought, okay, let's settle this. I want you both to make a sacrifice for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Now, Habil, he was an actual shepherd. So he had these lambs and goats and whatnot. So he looked for the best ram he could find, strongest and the healthiest. And then he offered this as a sacrifice for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Qabil, on the other hand, now he, I think, was more, he was not a shepherd. I believe he was more like a farmer. He had crops, produce of some sort. But for him, instead of actually looking for the best he had to offer, he just took whatever he wanted to give. It wasn't, he didn't put his effort and time into making sure it's the best thing he can sacrifice. He just gave whatever he wanted to give. So most likely he kept the best for himself. But basically, as we know the story, Habil's sacrifice was accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In fact, the ram that Habil gave was ascended to the Jannah. Okay? Whereas Qabil's sacrifice was completely rejected. Now, it's not rejection because it wasn't of a certain standard or certain quality standard. No, because Qabil, he didn't have taqwa. Right? Habil, he put in the time and effort because of his taqwa, his commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and his commitment to making the sacrifice to increase his taqwa. Whereas Qabil just did it because he felt like he had to do it as a routine. Right? He just was supposed to do it. And obviously, this rejection of his sacrifice led to him, being extremely jealous, into which he murdered his own brother, Habib. Now, let's fast forward to the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Now, I know we all know these stories, but it's always important to remind ourselves of these stories. So, I don't want to go into too much detail of the story itself. When Ibrahim alayhi salam's son was born, Ismail alayhi salam, and he was old enough to walk, and we know the stories of Ibrahim alayhi salam and how he always made these ultimate commitments to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How he left his wife and son when they were just newborn in the middle of the desert to, as an order from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was willing to commit to that. So now this commitment that he was supposed to make and he saw in a dream is that he's supposed to sacrifice his son Ismail alayhi salam. Right? This is a story we all know. And so they made the journey, before that, sorry. Ibrahim alayhi salam, he loved his son very much. So he told Ismail alayhi salam that this is my dream. My dream, I see myself sacrificing you. What do you think of this dream? And Ismail alayhi salam, he did not bicker. He did not verbally get aggressive or anything like that, as most of us would. I mean, if any of us had our fathers tell us that I saw a dream where I'm supposed to sacrifice you, we would be like, are you crazy? Are you mad? What's wrong with you? That always not believe that. But this is different. Right? The dreams of the prophets are to be taken very seriously. And so Ismail alayhi salam knew that. And he knew that the commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the obligations to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are more important. They supersede all else. Right? So his obligation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well as his father's obligation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those matter the most. So he said to him, as we read from this ayah, that, "Oh my dear father, do as you commanded. Allah willing, you will find me steadfast." Meaning, you will find me among the patient. You will find me with the sabr. He will not complain. He will not fight back. He will go along with it willingly. So they made the journey, and in this journey, Shaitan, he continuously harassed and pestered both Ibrahim alayhi salam and his son Ismail alayhi salam. Right, trying to push them away from this act of taqwa. This is the ultimate act of taqwa, a real sacrifice, a human sacrifice, the ultimate act of taqwa. And he kept pushing him away from this, coming up with all these different ideas and excuses that you don't want to do this, you don't want to do this to your son, etc. Or telling his son, you don't want to, don't let your father kill you. Things like constantly, all the time, right? And this eventually, we know that they started throwing the stones, and this now is part of an act of Hajj. But that's not the point of this. The point is, once they got to the point of the sacrifice, where they were going to where Ibrahim alayhi salam was going to sacrifice his son, he loved his son so much he could not see his face as he was going to do it, so he asked him to turn away. Right? He had the shroud ready and everything, but he couldn't. He was having difficulty, but he still continued on. And just as he had the knife on the neck of his son, that's when the order came to stop. And that's when he heard stop. And then the place was a ram or a lamb, whatever. And this lamb is not any ordinary lamb. This is a lamb that came from Jannah. Now, there's some scholars that say this is the same lamb that Habil alayhi salam gave. We don't know if that's for sure, but I don't know for sure. I haven't seen any hadith to confirm this, but at least we know that the lamb itself is from Jannah. So it was a very special lamb. And so this marks the importance of the journey. And that the reward is there at the end. Right? The command was there to make the sacrifice. And Ibrahim alayhi salam, he never doubted the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He didn't know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was going to just give him a lamb in this place. Instead, he truly believed that he was going to sacrifice his son. But he knew it was a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's what mattered to him the most. And that no matter what, none of these things matter, right? Because if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordains it, then we do as He pleases. So every year for Eid al-Adha, we should always remember this journey that Ibrahim alayhi salam took with Ismail alayhi salam, so that it can bring us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because again, the animals don't matter, right? It's not about, oh, the animal life, I don't like to get rid of the animal life, or I don't want to, I can't stand to do this to an animal. The animal does not matter. It is the command that matters, right? Now, this may not be a hard obligation on us, but it is such a strong sunnah that unfortunately is heavily neglected. For some reason, every year, Muslims continuously prioritize the Eid prayer on Eid al-Adha, but then they don't do the Qurbani. Now, Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, they're both celebratory type holidays, yes, but Eid al-Adha is not the same as Eid al-Fitr, where it's celebration and you have fun and all that. Eid al-Adha is about the taqwa. It's about the sacrifice. That's what it's about. It's about the Hajj as well for those who are doing the Hajj. But just because we are not on Hajj does not mean that we are not supposed to do the Qurbani ourselves as well. So this is a sunnah that's continuously neglected every year. And so you always find khutbahs, such as this one, where we are constantly pushing Muslims, get the lamb, go for the Qurbani. Don't hesitate to do it, because this is such a strong sunnah with so much immense reward in it. And it's such an ultimate act of coming close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's an ultimate act of taqwa, that we should not miss out this opportunity. It's such a strong thing. And unfortunately, I see two problems that we see all the time. Two issues with the Muslims in general is that one is that you find a lot of religious Muslims. I've seen religious Muslims my age, in their 30s, who they themselves, although they're religious and whatnot, they go to the masjid often, they pray the salah and all this, they don't do the Qurbani. They never do it. And I continuously ask, why don't you go? He's like, oh, I don't have the time. Or they say, I don't know if I can do it. Oh, I've never been able to do it before. They keep making these excuses, right? And these excuses come from where? They come from shaitan. But that doesn't matter. They'll still be held accountable for their actions, not what shaitan did. Right? It's their actions that are held accountable. But the point is the reason this happens is because I think too many Muslims, they do the Qurbani themselves, but they don't bring their children along to witness the Qurbani. They think that, the child is too young, they shouldn't see the sign of the blood, they shouldn't see the animal being killed. This Western idea, it's more a Western thing than anything else. Right? These non-Muslim animal activists, they keep on pushing and attacking Islam for being inhumane. We'll get back to that in a little bit, but this has come into our heads so much that we don't want the children to see the blood and the animal being killed and all that. But alhamdulillah, for my father, he had been taking me and my siblings for Qurbani since we were all like 6, 7 years old. Every single year. And yes, in the beginning, the child was uncomfortable. I was uncomfortable the first time I was witnessing an animal being killed and the blood coming out. It's abnormal to see that. It's not normal to see that at such a young age. But every year, I see it every year, alhamdulillah, it becomes normalized. So now, alhamdulillah, as an adult, I don't even think twice about it. I just pay for the animal and I go for it. No second thought, alhamdulillah. And not just myself, but many others who do the same. It's because we grew up watching and witnessing the slaughter. So that when it came time for our turn to do it, we didn't hesitate. And that's the importance here, is that hesitance comes because we, for some reason, don't want to take our children anymore to witness the Qurbani. Right? In Pakistan and India and other home countries, it's so common. I mean, the Qurbani is done literally in the backyard, right? People just, you find animals running down the street with blood running down the throat and all that. This is how the culture is. But in America, we don't have that culture. And for some reason, we try to adopt this westernized culture that, that children should not see this. The children should not see this. This is not a good concept. I don't understand this, where it comes from, but I don't like it. Does not adhere to Islam. We want our children to see this so that they are willing to do it themselves without hesitation, inshallah. So that's one issue I see. The second issue is, I find too many Muslims who think they're doing the Qurbani, but what they really are doing is they are sending money overseas to their home country, and saying, can you sacrifice a goat for me over there and feed 10 plus families? And they see this as Qurbani. This is not Qurbani. This is a good act. I'm not doubting the importance of this. This is good. This is a good charity. This is a good sadaqah. But that's what it is. It's just a sadaqah. It doesn't go beyond that. And you cannot replace one deed with another in Islam. We know this. You can't replace salah with fasting or vice versa. We don't replace one deed with another. So this specific act is to be done by our hand, right? In the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's a whole process I'll lay out in a second, but it's important that we do it ourselves. We do it with our money and do it ourselves if we can. If we have the financial means to do it, then we do it. But sending money overseas does not replace the act of doing it ourselves. So we cannot assume, and honestly, if you have the money, I recommend you do it yourself and also send money overseas to be done over there. Because if you're feeding families over there, there's a lot of reward for that, inshallah. But this isn't just about, the sadaqah reward. This is specifically a strong sunnah that we should not be neglecting, that we're trying to revive here. So one thing I also want to outline here is the wisdom in the sunnah of the hand slaughter. I mean, the wisdom behind it is so beautiful, mashallah. We never think about it, but when you see how the non-Muslims, they slaughter their animals in the slaughterhouses, I mean, you can watch documentaries all of this. It's very cruel. It's very painful because they break the legs of the animal so that they don't run away. They are all stuffed very close. They don't breathe. They are all in their own feces. They're knocked out. Sometimes it kills the animal and they still, slaughter or kill a dead animal, but they can't tell because they knock out all the animals so they don't know any better. And so this is their process of their slaughter. But in Islam, it's a very clear and simple, precise manner of how we do the slaughter. And there's so much wisdom behind it, subhanAllah. So as we all, and I think those who do Qurbani, you already know this. So the first and foremost thing is that the animal, should be a good, healthy animal. Should not be too young. And then we make sure also that the animal does not see the dead bodies of the other animals. They should not see the other dead animals because it scares them and it starts to frighten them and it increases their heart rate. So we don't want them to see the other dead animals. And then when it comes time to the actual slaughter, you don't want the animal to see the blade. They should not see the knife because again, this causes them to get scared and it'll start to cause them to start kicking. This is not the way it's supposed to be done. There was actually a video on YouTube of a Muslim farmer who showed how it's done, and he puts the ear of the lamb over the eyes, so that way he doesn't see what's happening. And then you do a swift cut at the jugular. And it's important to the jugular because that's where the blood will come out very quickly and efficiently. So the animal does not suffer long. It's very quick death. So this is the wisdom behind it, is that while the non-Muslims attack Islam saying this is what we're doing is brutal and barbarian and all this, we're actually doing the most humane way of slaughtering an animal. The most humane way, because we make sure the animal's not scared, that they don't see the dead bodies, that they are not dead before we get to them, before we slaughter them, that they are healthy and they're not too young, and then we make sure that their suffering is very quick, that the death is very quick. And if it's done correctly, you will see each time the animal just dies quickly, doesn't start kicking all over the place. Most of the time, if done correctly, the animal just dies in a peaceful manner. SubhanAllah. And as long as you also have to include the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you do it. But this is the importance of it, and this is the beauty behind the sunnah of doing the hand slaughter. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Alhamdulillah, wa salatu ala Rasulullah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So, in today's khutbah, we talked about the importance of the Qurbani, the story of Habil al-Qabil, and the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam, and the excuses we tend to come up with, and the reasons why we Muslims are not adhering to the Sunnah. We're neglecting such a strong, important Sunnah. And I just want to reiterate some of these points, is that one, if I'm not mistaken, Brother Tariq can clarify this, inshallah, but I believe it's not too late to order an animal for Qurbani. And if it is, there are other farms and other masajid in Richmond that have availability still. Don't waste this opportunity. We don't know if we will be here next year. Okay? This is something we all know, that death can come first anytime. Don't waste an opportunity. And don't think that, I did it last year, I don't need to do it. Do it every year. You have the opportunity, you have the financial means, then do it. Please don't hesitate, don't unnecessarily think over it. Just pay for it and then go for it, inshallah. Um, and also just keep in mind, like I mentioned in the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was with his son on the journey to sacrificing him, Shaitan continuously harassed and pestered and kept trying to push them away from doing this ultimate act of taqwa, right? And the same will happen with us every time, every year. It happens with me every year. You know, every time it's Eid and all that, I start having these doubts. I really want to do it. I don't feel like doing it this year. These things come to my mind, but you have to push that away and just, no, I have to do this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You remember why you do this, and you do it. Right? You don't hesitate, you don't hold off or anything like that. So we have to remember that if we start feeling like we have, cold feet, as I say, or you just don't feel like you want to go, you start making excuses that, oh, I don't have the time for it, or I just, these are all excuses from shaitan. You have to ignore them and put them to the side. And just remember you're doing this for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And always try to, like I said, remember this story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, because this is an act of taqwa, it's an act of ibadah, it's an act of worship. And this remembrance will keep us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And that's what's important here. That is the point of all this, is to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not just some ritual we do just because we're supposed to do it. No, this is to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And please remember that if you're going to do the Eid Salah, the Eid Salah is only one part of Eid al-Adha. The other part is Qurbani. So if you're doing one part and not the other, you have to question, is your Eid really complete? What does your Eid really mean if you're just going for the Salah only and not the Qurbani? So again, that's if you can financially afford it. But alhamdulillah, I think most of us are able to financially afford it. And also, don't think that, oh, I don't want to lose, the couple $100. This is, you don't lose money. In fact, you gain taqwa, and you'll also gain in so many righteous deeds, but you'll also gain your monetary in multiple folds eventually down the line. This is the way it is. Whenever you give money for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it always comes back in multiples. So just keep that in mind. Inshallah. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم في العالمين انك حميد مجيد. Ya Allah, please accept our salah and all of our good deeds. Ya Allah, please help strengthen our iman and put us on the right path. And if we are on the right path, please keep us on the right path. Ya Allah, please help ease the suffering of Muslims around the world. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون فاذكروني أذكركم واشكروا لي ولا تكفرون من الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله من حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
السلام عليكم. Inshallah. May Allah Ta'ala reward our Imam. MashaAllah, he highlights the most important thing close by. And as we have been doing it for many years, Jazakallah. We have been doing it for many years, so inshallah, we again plan to do the Eid in the back of the masjid. And there are many reasons. I want to know very quickly, just because of the Sunnah. Our Prophet used to, do his Qurbani close to where the worship. Many people are not able to do it, but we are able to do it and put together an event that inshallah comply with most of the Sunnah of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Why not? So that's why we're going to do it in the back. And if you have a flyer, if you have not ordered or reserve it, inshallah you can talk to me. Some of them are going fast, but some of the animals are still there. Inshallah, we go up. But there are other places, as Imam was saying, that you can go there in case if you missed it and don't have that. So Jazakallah khair for listening, and may Allah Ta'ala reward you for coming. And inshallah, I'll see you next time. Inshallah.